Yes, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Chat Sports TV. I am your delightful host, Nick Dais, at The Lamb Show on all social media outlets is where you can find me. Today, we're going to do one of my favorite things to do in all of sports. Fantasize about potential fake trades, real trades, all kind of trades. Who should go where and who should play with who. Before we get started, youtube.com/chatsportstv. If this is the first time that you're watching, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let's get started with the New York Knicks report here on Chat Sports TV. Let's pull up the Eastern Conference standings. And guys, don't look too hard. Let me help you out. Here's a shortcut. Just go to the bottom. You'll see the New York Knickerbockers 4-18 record at the time that we are recording this video. Reason for making a trade: to collect assets, right? You do what the Thunder did. They got rid of Paul George. They got rid of Russell Westbrook. Sure, they took on the contract from Chris Paul, but what they are doing is just collecting a lot of draft capital. Number two, you are one piece away from making a jump into being a title contender. You've seen it in years past at the deadline when teams think they are close to winning a title, they make a move. Remember Carmelo Anthony, when he came over to the Knicks thought that he was a key piece along with Stoudemire and Raymond Felton and them boys. At the time, they thought he would be a guy that could catapult them to the title picture. And last but not least, it's to clear cap space. It's to get rid of all those bad contracts, expiring contracts that you might regret right away, and clearing cap space for potential free agents. Now, I do think there are some players for the New York Knicks that are on the trading block. And one of the names that I'm going to bring up are going to be Wayne Ellington, Julius Randle, Frank Ntilikina, and Marcus Morris. Before we move on, I do want you guys to weigh in and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. It's in the link below. It is very, very simple, folks. Let's do it. Let's build this brand. Player card number 1, Wayne Ellington. Lethal shooter, potentially veteran shooting guard, has 4.7 points per game on 33.3% shooting and 31.8 behind the arc. Look, it wasn't too long ago where this guy was competing in the three-point contest. He was a top 5 three-point shooting percentage guy in the league. And he's a guy who, on the right team, I don't think the Knicks are the right team for him. Sure, he's a veteran, but I think a lethal sharpshooter, maybe with better spacing, maybe a guy who could get him the ball in better spots, he could be an impactful guy. The knock on him is that he's not getting a consistent role with the New York Knicks because of the mismanagement of the minutes between Coach Fizdale and this organization. It wasn't too long ago, guys, that he was a top 5 three-point shooter with the Heat. So I think he could be a valuable asset, though you're going to get him at super low cost. You can't sell high on a guy like Wayne Ellington. Julius Randle is the second name on this list, and it might come to a surprise to many of you guys because they just signed him in the offseason. He does have an opt-out after year 2 of the contract, so essentially this year and next year he's going to be with the New York Knicks. But if there's someone who would want a veteran big man that they think could get over the hump, going back to the 3 things that we talked about, why teams make trades, this could be a way for the New York Knicks to get out from that contract. If someone sees long-term value in a power forward, look, this guy is $18 million this year, $18.9 million in 2021, and then we have the team and player option over there. He's been very, very disappointing as a guy who watches a lot of the Knicks, and I just finished watching the Knicks once again just get blown out by 30. It just seems like that just happens every single time that the New York Knicks play. They keep it closer a little bit, they tease you, and then bedtime, they put you to sleep really, really early and just get blown out by 20 plus points. So he's been disappointing, Julius Randle. The whole team has been disappointing, but close to 4 turnovers a game is what Julius Randle is having. And a lot of just dumb decisions. You know, shooting early in the shot clock, 3-on-1 fast breaks. I went to the Garden a couple of weeks ago when they played the Spurs, and it was just very, very frustrating to see a guy like Randle out there. Does Randle's contract and how he's playing this year make him untradeable? I think potentially that's the case. Type Y if you think he is untradeable, yes. Y for yes. And type N for no for Julius Randle if you think that that contract is untradeable. Next up, Frank Ntilikina, who sabermetrics, analytics, the defensive nerds out there, they love Frank, and he's sensational, right? One of the coolest moments for the New York Knicks this year was when he checked Porzingis and was in the pocket of Luka Doncic up and down the floor. And it seemed to be a guy who's sort of like a pest, right? You just can't get rid of him. And he is a defensive wizard. He's one of the best guards in the NBA on the defensive side of the ball. But it's not only about defense. Sometimes you got to get buckets, and he still struggles to get buckets, though his offensive game has improved. It looks a lot better. I'm a big eye test guy, and looking at him from years past and this year, it does seem like he's taking the next step. But I think this guy is going to be a guy that the New York Knicks are going to regret if they get rid of him, because he has all the makings of a guy to have an impact on a team, sort of like what PJ Tucker has had with the Rockets in the playoffs, right? PJ Tucker, when he would play with the Rockets, he would be out there grabbing boards against the Warriors, Draymond Green, Boogie Cousins, Kevin Durant. He would just get rebounds off all these guys. So I think Frank Ntilikina, I do have him in a potential trade package later on in this show when we get to it. And I think that's the sole team that could save this kid's career and can make him a megastar. No exaggeration. Next up is Morris. Never would have thought at the beginning of the year, if you were to tell me that the Morris brother was going to be the best player on the Knicks. And he has that bully attitude that the New York Knicks fan base like. I was in the stands, like I said a couple of weeks ago, and I was just talking to some of the people in the crowd, and they just love the Morris twins, and they love the Morris that the Knicks have, Marcus Morris. He's shining from behind the arc, 52.4%, close to 19 points per game he is dropping. He still plays solid defense, and if you look at his offensive numbers, they're pretty sensational. He's having sort of a career year. I think a contender can see some value in a grizzled vet who was with the Celtics not too long ago, going on that deep playoff run with no Kyrie and no Gordon Hayward. And I think that's very telling. I think that's something very important for Marcus Morris. Weigh in below, guys. Which of these players do you think the Knicks should trade away? You have grizzled vets, you have a big contract, and you have a young asset. I would like for them to keep Frank Ntilikina. He has grown on me. If you could get something out of Wayne Ellington, if you could get out from that Randle contract, if you can maybe get a team to bite on a grizzled vet like Marcus Morris, I think you should pull the trigger. So let me know what you guys think. Now, I do have two players in the league, all-stars, former all-stars, still playing at a relatively high level, but their contracts are an issue. And one name that I think could be an interesting trade candidate for the New York Knicks is Chris Paul. I know what you're saying. Nick, awful contract. Yes, no question. Absolutely. But here, fun fact. Guess how many free agents are going to come to the Knicks? 0. You know why? Because I have history. No big name free agent comes to the Knicks. It's not going to happen. So get that out of your head. The idea of Donovan Mitchell in a couple of years and Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's going to be a free agent, it's not going to happen. It just never happens. It all starts at the top. A lot of fire, Dolan chants have been roaring through the halls of Madison Square Garden. Who else is going to come here is my biggest talking point here. Nobody wants to come here. So why not trade for a guy like Chris Paul, who, with some young guys, could be interesting, right? Show them the ropes, show them how to move the ball around, and just let him go out there and shoot 20 times a game and try to get some of these young guys involved. I think it could be a nice thing. And you could sell the fan base on a guy who is one of the greatest point guards of all time. Trade scenario. Marcus Morris, Bobby Portis, one of the two Dallas Mavericks picks for Kristaps Porzingis, for Chris Paul. And maybe we'll even throw them Dennis Smith Jr. because I think Dennis Smith Jr. and Chris Paul are going to kill themselves if they were on the same team. And the other trade scenario that I have is DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan is able to hit free agency this summer, $27.7 million player option for next season. Look, the Spurs are struggling. They are no longer the team that we thought they were all these years in the past. They find themselves towards the bottom of the Western Conference standings. And the Knicks, again, can sell the fan base high on a guy like DeMar DeRozan, who still kind of plays at a high level, and he's a former All-Star. The trade scenario I'm looking at here, and this is where I'm going to get nervous, if DeMar DeRozan was to be traded to the Knicks for these guys. Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, Wayne Ellington, Taj Gibson. For DeMar is the ultimate San Antonio Spurs Greg Popovich trade. He'll take a guy like Kevin Knox. He'll take a guy like Frank Ntilikina. He loves those international players. We've seen it in the past with Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Boris Diaw, the list goes on and on, where Greg Popovich has turned these Euro guys into megastars. And he would be buying low, the Spurs would be buying low on a guy like Frank Ntilikina, on a guy like Kevin Knox, who these guys were top 10, 11 picks, lottery picks in the NBA draft not too long ago. So who would you guys rather have the Knicks trade for? Type C for Chris Paul or type D for DeMar DeRozan? Like I said, I'm your delightful host, Nick Dais, at The Lamb Shows, where you can find me. And I'll catch you guys next time over here on Chat Sports.